Such use of HISN technology is called adoption, meaning that the providers in healthcare industry change the ways that clinical care is provided and the work of healthcare is done. To adopt disruptive HISN technology also means that organizations adapt to automated work processes, a huge change from the paper-based processes and workflows that typically take much longer than anticipated with even the most conservative of estimates. It is important to remember that in hissing technology, everything touches everything. In other words, it is impossible to do something in one layer that does not affect another area for better or worse. Consequently, leadership within each area, whether organizational, government, or clinical business, coordinate with leadership of each layer and the whole is essential to his success. Additionally, there is a leadership role within each layer of the HIS model. The adoption of HISN technology is thought to follow the pattern of diffusion of innovation and adoption of disruptive technologies as described by Rogers in 1962 and his landmark book, Diffusion of Innovations. Amid the sense of emergency and recent major legislative and regulatory thrusts to stimulate the adoption of HISN technology in the United States, one might think that this is a brand new idea and innovation just emerging from the laboratories of Silicon Valley technology firms and Cambridge software development startup. Most would be surprised to learn that the development and introduction of new information technology for use in healthcare has been continuously taking place since the 1960s, and hospital data processing department, clinical computer laboratories, home offices, garages, and other humble dedicated points of innovation. As of 2012, 40% of physicians used a basic EHR system, but 9.8% of those systems met meaningful use criteria, which reveals the depth of use of EHR functionality, both qualitative and quantitative. 20% of solo practitioners had at least a basic system compared to 58% of those in practices of 11 or more physicians. Among hospitals, adoption of basic EHRs and comprehensive EHRs has increased substantially since the high tech incentives were put in place, but levels of adoption are not yet meeting the overall goals of widespread adoption. In 2012, 44% of hospitals had a basic EHR system, an increase of 17 percentage points from 2011, and about three times the percentage in 2010. Approximately 16.7% of hospitals had adopted comprehensive EHRs by 2012, about twice the proportion in 2011. I think that hospitals and larger facilities seem to have an easier time with EHRs compared to smaller practices that have a more difficult time. The U.S. Department of Health and Human Services is spending $25 billion to provide incentives for the adoption of EHRs among hospitals and physician practices. In addition, it hopes to generate savings of about $10 billion through the application of meaningful use criteria as part of that incentive program through adoption of technical and data standards to facilitate the secure sharing of data between clinicians through systems. HTech funding also provides training grants to colleges and universities to prepare the estimated 57,000 health IT workers needed to accomplish widespread EHR adoption. These criteria and standards are being designed to improve patient safety, reduce instances of repeated diagnostic tests and other medical processes, increase timeliness of care by speeding transmission of information to clinicians, and bringing greater greater overall efficiency to the U.S. healthcare system. I think that the best way to avoid underestimating these costs within healthcare organizations is to look at other organizations who are using EHRs within the meaningful use criteria. That way, healthcare organizations can base their budgets off these previous healthcare organization budgets, and hopefully that will provide enough funds to provide the organization with college grants and software and vendors to have effective EHR systems in their organization. As more research is being conducted on HISN technology implementation, evidence is emerging that consequences of introducing these systems into healthcare organizations are not always positive. In fact, harm can be attributed in some cases to the ways chosen to automate healthcare processes. The nature and degree of harm that may be caused by unintended consequences of HISN technology, including EHRs, is not well known. This is in part due to the fact that health IT products are varied. They have wide ranging and diverse impacts on healthcare environments, processes, and workflow. Vendor favoring contracts contain legal language forbidding open disclosures of system problems, thus blocking transparent reporting of software product related problems, as does inadequate and limited evidence for the variance in literature. Recent evidence points to unintended negative consequences to patient safety associated with implementing HISN technology, and cautions are being more pronounced as all parties seek to develop safety standards for HISN technology products, projects, and risk reporting processes. Additionally, realities of HISN technology implementations should also be kept in mind, such as the tendencies to underestimate the costs associated with the implementations and the fact that both computer and human errors contribute to these unintended consequences.